Hi everyone, this is Margot, life and career coach with Clarity Brunei, and today I'm interviewing Todd McPherson on the occasion of International Mental Health Day, 10th of October 2017. Todd, I will put him in the screen for you now. Todd is originally from Canada and has been in Brunei for over 15 years, almost 15 years, and he's working here as a psychologist. He set up Clarity 4 years ago, and Clarity is an organization that brings together internationally trained psychologists, counselors, occupational therapists, and also life and career coaches. Clarity strives to provide quality mental health care to both adults and children in Brunei. Todd, welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining me today. Todd, like I said, today is International Mental Health Care Day. And can you tell me, what mental health issues do you come across here in Brunei? What do you come across most often here?
In my work, I work as a counseling psychologist. So generally I'm seeing healthy people, not necessarily mentally unwell. So the kind of problems I see tend to be a lot of things like relationship problems, parenting issues, depression, anxiety, things of that nature. So anger issues, addictions, quite a few things like that. So some of those you would consider, I guess, mental health problems, others more life problems.
And Todd, we all sometimes suffer from anxiety or bouts of not feeling very well, but when is the time that we should seek help from a professional? What do we see in it? What kind of symptoms should we take notice of?
Yeah, I guess for a lot of people, what happens is they go through life and they just carry on and they don't really notice. And once they finally get the courage or the idea to come see someone, they look back and notice that for a long time they've been struggling. The kinds of things that people might be struggling with. For example, if you're maybe dealing with an anxiety disorder, you might be struggling with perfectionism, maybe people telling you you're too controlling or a control freak. You might be finding that you're very rigid, that you have a lot of compulsive behaviors or obsessive thoughts, perhaps ritualistic ways of doing things. You might have a great deal of shyness or avoidance of social situations, withdrawing. Quite a few things like that are actually indicators of anxiety problems. Other things you might notice would be excessive worrying, particularly about specific things. Many people worry a huge amount about their health and how they're doing, whether they have diseases or problems. They might worry about safety. They might worry excessively about their children's safety. Maybe things like flying, or even a fear of snakes that becomes too big. So things like that are indicators of anxiety problems, for example.
And the other issues that you mentioned, for example, depression. When is somebody not just gloomy, but when do you say they are depressed and they should come for help?
As you said, a lot of people feel down at different times. What usually marks depression is when there's no obvious cause. If someone dies, you've had some big changes in your life, you've had some bad news, maybe you're going through a breakup, then it's very common and probably expected that you feel down. But when something like that lasts a long period of time, many, many weeks, when you can't necessarily point to any specific cause, when you just feel down all the time, when you stop doing what you've previously enjoyed doing, if you're losing weight, gaining weight, if you're withdrawing from life in general, if your thinking is very negative, perhaps you feel like it's easier not to be alive, then that's a good time, or those are good indicators that you should probably talk to somebody. And that doesn't mean you're crazy or mentally unwell, just that things need to change.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing that you mentioned there. Like, you're not necessarily crazy if you come and see a psychologist or a counselor. it is rather an issue of wanting to change. And
Yeah.
and
Well,
how
most of my clients are actually doing very well most of the time, but they often feel stuck with something. So things aren't going the way they want them to go. Perhaps they're not thinking the way they prefer to be thinking. Usually they're not feeling the way they want to be feeling. And a lot of people who see me do very well. They're very successful, they're well respected, but they just want things to be better.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of person I generally see a lot of.
People who want things to be better and they don't want to stay stuck where they are. Okay.
Exactly. People who don't want to stay stuck and achieve their best.
Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned the symptoms for anxiety and depression. What other issues do you see very regularly here in Brunei?
Probably one of the more common things I deal with would be relationship issues. So this is common everywhere in the world. Being married is difficult. Parenting is difficult. Maintaining friendships can be challenging. So with a lot of people, they find that they're really struggling with trust. They might be sometimes feeling like they can't say no to friends, or that they're getting used. I see many people after an affair or a betrayal in a relationship, or even people who feel like they've fallen out of love. Now again, those aren't mental illness in any sense, but common life problems and things that many people come with, and that can actually really be significantly improved.
And maybe a strange question, but do people generally come together if they come for such issues, or do they come on their own? How does that work?
I'd say both occur, but it's actually more common for one person to come on their own and say that they're unhappy or they're frustrated or they don't know what to do to make the relationship better. And what's interesting is even working with one person is very, very effective. One person has a significant impact on a relationship. And actually, I often prefer seeing one person at a time, because then they focus on what's in their control rather than blaming the other person or trying to get me to change them. So actually working one-to-one is highly effective with relationship matters.
That's good to know. So, because I think a lot of people think, oh, I need to come together. But
yeah. And often their partner doesn't want to come.
Yeah. So,
coming alone is very, very important and very helpful.
Okay, good stuff. So Todd, we've already mentioned some of the most common issues that you come across, but of course, a mental issue, not necessarily an illness, but something that weighs on you, doesn't only weigh on the person affected, but it can also weigh a lot on the other people around you. So do you have any kind of advice for family members of people that are affected? How can they best deal with this situation?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And I think families from different parts of the world or different cultures with different experiences will do it differently. Often in Brunei, people tell me there's a tendency to cover up, keep it quiet, don't air your dirty laundry, don't talk to other people about it, just try and cover it up and keep it quiet. And I think that probably doesn't actually help the person who's most stuck, and it doesn't help the family members involved. I really think seeking professional help is the best way forward. And when you see a professional, someone like myself, it's our job, it's our ethical responsibility to be confidential. So we don't talk about who comes here. We don't report to anybody that they've been. It's all kept confidential or secret, if you will. So that person can get help, the family can get helpful strategies, and it's still not opened up to the whole community. So I think that would be one really important thing, is don't try and, I guess, smother the problem and pretend it's not there, but address it head on and find someone who can actually give you some help.
Yeah. And can people also contact you if they're worried about a family member, or what would you suggest? Or
Well, that's actually really common.
Does that happen?
Yeah, that happens a great deal. I get many people who will say, my brother or my aunt or a cousin or a friend I think really needs help. Can I bring them to see you? Often they're wondering, how do I get them to see you? That they're resistant, or maybe they don't want to. So a lot of people will initiate visits for people who are close to them.
And how does that work? Do they come, or what is required from the person that comes?
Good question. Actually, the process is actually really simple. We have a very comfortable room or office, if you like, and people simply have to get in touch with me, make an appointment with myself, or I'll set them up with one of our other therapists, and simply come to our clinic. They're invited in. They're invited to talk about the problem and how it's affecting their life and the people around them. We'll talk about how they want things to be, what would be better, what's the outcome they're looking for. We find out more about the individual, their strengths, their past experiences, their successes, and what they can do that can be beneficial. And then we work together to find strategies to help. And this would normally happen over a few sessions. And it's very comfortable. Yeah.
Oh, sorry to break in. When you say over a few sessions, like how often do people have to come? Do they come every day, every week, every month? What is normal?
Right. In our practice, there's no requirement. Somebody can come once, and if they feel like it doesn't really meet their needs or it's not working, they don't need to come back. But typically, we'll see people once a week. That would be the norm. And many clients find that 5 or 6 visits is incredibly helpful. It sets them off in a new direction. They've got new strategies, and they start to feel better around that time. Some people might come for more, some might come for less, but that's really up to the individual and how they're working.
And once a week, like how much time is involved for them?
Yeah, it's 1 hour. So most appointments are 1 hour long. Many people will come once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks. And that seems to be a good length of time between visits. Generally coming more often doesn't sort of double up the benefits like that.
Okay.
And not much is required. We don't need a lot of paperwork. There's no big process. It's simply come on in, gather a little bit of information about you, and then we'll start to work.
Thank you, Todd, for this very clear explanation. I'm maybe putting you on the spot with this last question, but do you have any final words or any advice that you can dish out for people on here in Brunei? Anything on?
Yeah, I guess what I'd love to say is just be aware that the services exist. If you ever have a feeling like it might be helpful, go ahead and make an inquiry. It's not a problem for us to talk to you, to answer your questions, to tell you more about it, either for yourself or somebody you know. The biggest thing we want to do right now is really increase awareness. Services are available. Services help a huge amount and can actually be life-changing in many cases. So don't ignore problems. Seek help.
Thank you. Very clear. And they can even make inquiries through the Clarity Facebook page, right?
Absolutely. We've got a Clarity Brunei Facebook page. We've got a Clarity Brunei website. So it's very easy to find if you do a Google search.
That's great. I will also put the details at the end.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Todd, for your time. And people, if you have any questions or inquiries related to this, feel free to contact Todd through the Clarity channels. Todd, thank you very much for your time. And well, we hope that we've shed some light on what issues face the people here in Brunei.
Great. Thanks for the opportunity, Margot.
Thank you.